Immaculate is a 2024 American psychological horror film directed by Michael Mohan, and it stars Sydney Sweeney as a devout young woman who is invited to stay at what looks like a picture-perfect convent in Italy, and then she finds out that that place might be harboring some deep, dark secrets within its walls. This film was one of those films where usually when you're talking about religious horror, you can go one way or the other. It can either be very effective or it can fall flat on its face. If you look at movies like The Omen or The Exorcist or the Amityville Horror, you name it, these films really have to ride the line of what looks to be somewhat realistic and also what is fantastical for a movie. And this film is no different. Development on this particular project was underway as early as 2014 when Sydney Sweeney first auditioned for the role in the film from a screenplay written by Andrew Lobel. However, the project fell in developmental hell, and eventually Sydney Sweeney herself bought the rights to the film and had asked Michael Mohan to direct it. The director stated that originally the film featured high school girls in the cast, but was changed to nuns to better suit Sweeney and the audience's expectations. Now, going into this film, I will tell you this: if you're a fan of religious horror, then you will probably enjoy this film. Although, one thing that really got me was the atmosphere. You're in a different country, and you can definitely feel that all throughout. You have a lot of people that are speaking in Italian, so you do have subtitles, but it was really just kind of dark and overbearing, kind of the tone of the film, which worked because you're in this convent and it's very creepy. Like, it's almost like the walls are staring back at the characters and kind of like staring back at you as you're watching it from the audience's perspective. I will say that it reminded me of something that was more akin to something in the 70s, like The Omen or something like that. It had this dark atmosphere to it that was it was interesting. The movie had points where you were absolutely engaged and somewhat terrified, to be honest, and then you had parts where it allowed the characters to kind of just be there and breathe. So some people might consider this movie to be a slow burn. For me myself, I can understand that, and that's pretty fair to say. Although I'm the type of person that I really enjoy slow burns, especially if it's done well. And I do think Immaculate was done well. When we saw this in the theater was pretty packed, and you could see a lot of people in the audience, at least right around where we were sitting. They were very engaged with what was happening in the movie. The standout performance is obviously Sydney Sweeney. She was really captivating, to be quite honest. She had this type of demeanor to her as she's playing Sister Cecilia, this young person who is trying to find herself but also feels very lost. You can tell that she has faith, but at the same time, she seems like maybe there's a little bit of conflict to choose this path for her life because, when she takes her vows to become a nun, she's giving up so much. But in the story, it seems as though she's running away from her past to a certain degree. Now, as the story goes on, you start to see certain things happening within the walls of the convent that definitely seem off and eerie, somewhat supernatural in some scenes, and it plays to the audience's expectations for a film like this. There are moments where some of the other characters, some of the other sisters, they're very standoffish, they're very brash, and it kind of puts Cecilia in a situation where she's much more removed and very alone, even though this is a place where she wants to call home. So you feel for her character, in other words, as she's trying to get adjusted to this new place and possibly this new life for her. And that plays into what happens in the film, because eventually, as you can imagine from the title of the film, she becomes pregnant, and the whole convent is treating her like, this is the second coming of Christ, because it looks as though it's an immaculate conception. So the movie really gets your attention early on, and then it really holds your attention because it follows her throughout her pregnancy, and the movie is cut into those pieces into the trimester. Like the second part is called the second trimester, and then the third is the third trimester. And so again, I'm watching this movie. I didn't hear any spoilers about it whatsoever, and I would suggest you do the same. And as we're going along in this movie, I'm like, man, where is this gonna go? How is this gonna end? You have scenes where you'll have characters walking down hallways, and it's really dark, and it seems like the hallway elongates. You can hear whispers and scratches. You do see scenes where some of the other nuns are in places in the convent that I would never want to go, like deep dark corridors, and they're just crying and wailing and yelling and so forth. And then like Mother Superior, she's basically like, oh well, we all get emotional sometimes, saying this to Sydney Sweeney's character of Cecilia. And it's just like, wow, it's just off. It's eerie. The whole movie is eerie from the beginning all the way to the end. But again, I think this is tailor made for people that either are into religious horror, or they're very curious about it, or maybe just open-minded viewers of horror. If you're the type of person that doesn't like movies like The Omen or The Exorcist or Amityville Horror, movies like that, then you're probably not gonna like this. Not that this is like those movies. This isn't like those movies. It has its own thing going on, which I did appreciate. But I'm just saying, this whole idea of having a lot of spiritualism and religious aspects right there in front of you, I think that you have to be a certain horror movie fan for that. And I think that this movie knows that. It is only I think it's a $9 million budget. But so far, it's actually made back almost its budget. So it's doing really well. And there's been a lot of people that have been praising Sydney Sweeney's performance, which I also will say she was just great. She was absolutely great. Now, as the movie goes on, once we get probably halfway through the movie, right in the middle of the second trimester section of the film, the movie takes a little bit of a turn. And I think for a lot of viewers, they're gonna either be along for the ride, or they're gonna be kind of switched off a little bit. I will say that I was fine with it. I was absolutely fine with it, and it really carries throughout the ending of the movie. And of course, the last, I would say 15, maybe even 20 minutes, I would say the last 15-20 minutes, yeah, it's a roller coaster of events that happens. And things play out a little bit differently than you might expect. And I think that was really cool. At the end of the movie, I've heard some people say, they were on board with it. And some people say, nope, I'm not on board with it. I was fine with it because at the end of the film, Sydney Sweeney as Cecilia, there's choices that she has to make. And those are choices that I can understand anyone making. Let's just put it that way. But I will definitely say, guys, I would go into this blind without any spoilers whatsoever, and that's why I don't want to give away any spoilers. So those are just some of my thoughts for Immaculate. This will be hopefully something that we'll talk about more. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. It helps to support the channel. I'd appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the Nightwatch Zone, this is the time to do it. Do it and join this amazing community where you'll never love and talk about movies the same. So I'll catch you guys later. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Nightwatch. Peace.